1974, Nashville. At 8 p.m., Johnny Cash walked into a veterinary clinic with a dying dog. By 8:05, a man who had built his career for 30 years had just lost everything. Dr. Richard Patterson, 55, was Nashville's most expensive and coldest veterinarian. He always wore a pristine white coat, carried his gloves like he'd just walked out of surgery. His clinic generated $600,000 annually. 80% of Nashville's wealthy musicians were his clients. Patterson hadn't always been this way. In 1955, fresh out of vet school, he'd worked for free at shelters. But somewhere between his second divorce and his third Mercedes, something inside him died. Now he only spoke money. He worked for invoices, not for dogs. And right now, he was looking at the blood-soaked dog in Johnny Cash's arms, shaking his head. The clinic's waiting room smelled like disinfectant and fear. Emily Hart, 23, the clinic's assistant, stood frozen behind the reception desk. She had soft brown hair tied back, wore scrubs covered in paw prints, and her hands were trembling. Emily's father, Sergeant Robert Hart, had died in Vietnam in 1971. His body was found 3 days after his unit was ambushed because of a military dog named Duke who refused to leave his side. Duke led the rescue team through the jungle, barking until they found him. Emily never got to thank that dog. She couldn't save Duke. He died 2 weeks after they brought her father home. But she could save others. That's why she became a vet tech. And now, lying on the metal examination table, was a German Shepherd mix, maybe 4 years old, hit by a car on Music Row, left femur shattered, internal bleeding, gasping for air. No collar, no owner, no one to pay. Emily looked at the dog, then at Dr. Patterson. She knew what was coming. Dr. Patterson lifted the dog's lip, checked its gums. Cold, clinical. He turned to Johnny. "Mr. Cash, this dog needs emergency surgery, femur reconstruction, possible spleen removal, blood transfusion. We're looking at $2,000 minimum. Maybe $3,000 if complications arise." Johnny nodded. "Do it," Patterson smiled. Not a warm smile. A businessman's smile. "There's another issue. This dog has no owner. Legally, it's a stray. If I operate and it survives, who takes responsibility? Who pays for post-op care? Medication? Follow-ups? We're talking another $1,500 over 3 months. He paused. "Mr. Cash, I've been doing this for 30 years. This dog might not survive surgery. Even if it does, quality of life is questionable. The humane thing, the logical thing is euthanasia. Quick, painless, $50. Emily's breath caught. She looked at Johnny. Johnny looked at the dog. What Johnny didn't know, Patterson had already done the math. If Johnny Cash paid for this surgery, Patterson could leak it to the Nashville Banner. Johnny Cash spends thousands on stray dog. Instant PR. Patterson could then justify raising his rates, if it's good enough for Johnny Cash. He'd done it before. When Dolly Parton's poodle needed surgery in 1972, Patterson charged $5,000 for a $1,200 procedure. Dolly paid. Never complained. Patterson bought a boat with that money. This stray dog was worth $2,000 in surgery costs, but it was worth $20,000 in publicity. Patterson wanted Johnny to pay, but he needed Johnny to time struggle times with it first, make it look heroic. "Mr. Cash," Patterson said, softer now, "I understand you have a soft heart, but this is a business decision, not an emotional one." Johnny looked up. His eyes went dark. "What did you just say?" Emily stepped forward. "Dr. Patterson." "Emily? Go check on the appointments. Dr. Patterson, I can assist. We can do this surgery. I've seen you do it 100 times. Miss Hart, this is not your decision. Emily's voice cracked. My father had a dog save his life. I became a vet tech because of that dog. This dog deserves... Patterson turned. His voice was ice. Your father's dog had a purpose, Miss Hart. It was trained. It was military. This dog is nothing. It has no owner, no value, no function. Spending $2,000 on it is throwing money into a fire. He looked back at Johnny. I'm recommending euthanasia. If you disagree, Mr. Cash, you're welcome to take the dog to another clinic. But I doubt you'll find anyone willing to lose money on a lost cause. The dog whimpered. Johnny stood up slowly. Johnny walked to the examination table. He put his hand on the dog's head. The dog's eyes opened slightly. Brown. Scared. Fighting. How long? Johnny asked. How long what? How long does it have without surgery? Patterson checked his watch. Maybe an hour. Internal bleeding will. And if I take it somewhere else? Mr. Cash, every clinic in Nashville will tell you the same thing. It's 8 p.m. Emergency vets will charge double. You're looking at $5,000 minimum for a dog that might die anyway. Johnny nodded slowly. But what Patterson didn't know was that Johnny Cash had already made his decision. Johnny turned to Patterson. What's your yearly income from this clinic? Patterson blinked. Excuse me? Your income from this clinic. What is it? I don't see how that's ballpark. Patterson shifted. Around $600,000. Johnny looked around the clinic. Clean, expensive equipment. Framed photos of Patterson with celebrities. A framed diploma on the wall. Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. University of Tennessee. 1,955. A plaque. Nashville's premier veterinary care since 1955. Johnny looked back at Patterson. You make $600,000 a year, and you won't save a dog's life because nobody's paying you, Mr. Cash? That's not. You told Emily her father's dog had times value times because it was trained. This dog has no value because it's a stray? Patterson's jaw tightened. That's not what I... Johnny leaned in. His voice was quiet. Dangerous. Every dog has value. Every single one. You forgot that. You forgot why you became a vet. Patterson laughed. Actually laughed. Mr. Cash, I respect your music. I respect your fame. But you don't understand how this business works. I have overhead, staff, equipment costs. I can't operate a charity. Johnny interrupted him. Do the surgery. I'll pay double. Patterson stopped. $4,000? $4,000. Right now. Cash. Emily's eyes went wide. Patterson smiled. Mr. Cash, I appreciate, but... Johnny said. Patterson's smile faded. You do it now. Yourself. Not your associate vet. You. And Emily assists. Mr. Cash, I have other appointments. Cancel them. I can't just... Johnny pulled out his wallet. He counted out 40 $100 bills. Slow, deliberate. Each bill hitting the counter like a gunshot. He stacked them in front of Patterson. $4,000. Do the surgery. Save the dog. Or I walk out of here, take the dog, and I call every single musician in Nashville and tell them what you just said. About value. About lost causes. About business decisions. The room went silent. Patterson stared at the money. You're bluffing. Johnny picked up the cash. Then he looked at Patterson's framed diploma on the wall. Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. Johnny walked over, reached up, took it off the wall. Emily gasped. Johnny placed the diploma on the counter, right next to where the money had been. He looked Patterson in the eyes. You can keep your degree or your conscience, not both. Then Johnny turned to the examination table. He lifted the dog careful, gentle, into his arms. The dog whimpered but didn't struggle. Emily moved. Mr. Cash, wait. Patterson's voice rose. Miss Hart, you walk out that door. You're fired. Emily looked at the diploma on the counter, at Patterson's face, at the dog dying in Johnny's arms. She untied her scrubs, pulled them over her head, stood there in her t-shirt and jeans. I quit. She grabbed her bag from under the desk, walked to the door, held it open for Johnny. Patterson stood frozen. You can't just... Johnny stopped at the door, turned back. I just did. He walked out into the Nashville night. Patterson stood alone in his clinic, staring at his diploma on the counter, at the empty examination table, at the bloodstains, at the receptionist, Linda, who was staring at him like he'd just murdered someone. Linda picked up her purse. I'm going home, Dr. Patterson. I don't think I can work here anymore. She walked out. Patterson grabbed his phone. His hands were shaking. He dialed his lawyer. Frank, I need you to. There's been a situation, Johnny Cash. Just slow down, Richard. What happened? He walked out with a dog. Threatened to, I need damage control. If this gets out... On the other end of the line, Frank Warner, Patterson's lawyer of 15 years, went quiet. Richard, did you refuse to treat an animal in front of Johnny Cash? It was a business decision. The dog had no owner, no way to pay. Jesus Christ, Richard. The line went dead. Johnny drove across town. Emily sat in the back, holding the dog's head in her lap. The dog was barely breathing. There's a clinic, Emily said. East Nashville. Dr. Maria Gonzalez. She does low-cost surgeries. I did an internship there. Will she take him? She takes everyone. They pulled up to a small building. Faded sign. Gonzalez Animal Clinic. All creatures, welcome. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, 40, was locking up. She turned, saw Johnny, saw Emily, saw the dog. How long does he have? She asked. Maybe 30 minutes, Emily said. Dr. Gonzalez unlocked the door. Bring him in. Dr. Gonzalez prepped. Emily scrubbed in. Johnny waited in the hallway. Mr. Cash, Dr. Gonzalez said through the door. This surgery is $800, but I can't promise. Do your best. If he makes it, he'll need post-op care. Another $600, medication, checkups. Someone needs to take responsibility. I will. Dr. Gonzalez paused, nodded. Okay. She operated for 4 hours. Emily assisted. At one point, the dog's heart stopped. Dr. Gonzalez performed CPR. Shocked him. Nothing. Shocked him again. The monitor beeped. Emily started crying. At 1:30 a.m., Dr. Gonzalez came out. Her scrubs were covered in blood. She was exhausted. Johnny stood up. He'll live? By the time Patterson got home that night, Linda had already called her sister. Her sister worked at the Nashville Banner. The next morning, the front page, Johnny Cash, saves stray dog after wealthy vet, refuses care. The article quoted multiple clinic staff members. It detailed Patterson's $600,000 income, his refusal, his exact words, "This dog has no value." Emily's story about her father was in paragraph 3. By 9 a.m., Patterson's phone was ringing off the hook. Chris Christopherson's manager. We're done. Waylon Jennings' assistant. Waylon says find another vet. Dolly Parton herself called. Richard, I can't believe I trusted you with my animals. By noon, Patterson had received 47 cancellations. By the end of the week, He'd lost 60% of his clients. Patterson tried to fight back. He called the Banner, threatened to sue for defamation. The Banner's lawyer laughed. "Every word we printed is true. We have 3 witnesses." Patterson called Johnny's management, left messages, no response. Patterson hired a PR firm, cost $15,000. They told him, "There's nothing we can do. You're the guy who told Johnny Cash a dog has no value." That's not spinnable. In September 1974, Patterson's clinic revenue dropped from $50,000 month to $18,000 month. In January 1975, he laid off 2 of his 4 staff members. In June 1975, he put the clinic up for sale. No buyers. In December 1976, Patterson's clinic filed for bankruptcy. He owed $340,000 to equipment suppliers, pharmaceutical companies, and the bank. Patterson moved to Florida, opened a small practice in a strip mall, never recovered. He died in 1991. His obituary in the Nashville Banner was 4 sentences long. It didn't mention Johnny Cash. Johnny named the dog Soldier. Soldier lived 11 more years. In 1978, Soldier traveled with Johnny on tour. Backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, a young songwriter was having a panic attack before his first performance. Soldier walked over, laid his head on the kid's lap, stayed there until he calmed down. In 1982, Johnny had a relapse, disappeared for 3 days. June found him in a motel room in Memphis, drunk, with pills scattered across the floor. Soldier was lying across Johnny's chest, refusing to move. Every time Johnny tried to get up, Soldier growled. June called a doctor. They cleaned Johnny up, got him into rehab. Later, Johnny told a reporter, "That dog saved my life, just like I saved his. We were even." In 1985, Soldier died peacefully in his sleep. Johnny buried him on his property in Tennessee, put up a stone marker. Soldier, 1,970 to 1,985. He taught me what value means. Emily Hart went back to veterinary school, graduated in 1978, top of her class. She opened her own clinic in East Nashville. Second Chance Animal Hospital. Her policy: if you can't pay, we work out a payment plan. If you can't do a payment plan, we do it anyway. By 1983, Second Chance had treated over 3,000 animals. 40% paid nothing. In a 1983 interview with Nashville Scene, Emily said, "Johnny Cash taught me that the value of a life isn't determined by who's paying for it. That night, he didn't just save a dog. He reminded me why I became a vet, doctor. Patterson forgot that. I never will." Johnny Cash never spoke publicly about Patterson. When asked about Soldier in interviews, he'd just smile and say, "Some things are worth more than money. Some decisions cost you everything, but they're still the right decision. That dog taught me that. Or maybe I taught him. Either way, we both learned." In 1994, a reporter asked Johnny if he regretted walking out of Patterson's clinic. Johnny thought for a long moment. Then he said, "I regret that it took me so long to walk out." Johnny Cash lost $4,000 that night. But he gained something, Doctor. Richard Patterson never understood. Proof that doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything, is the only thing that matters. Patterson kept his money and lost his soul. Johnny lost his money and found his. And today, when people remember that night, they don't remember the $4,000. They remember the man who took a diploma off the wall and said, "You can keep your degree or your conscience, not both." That's the difference between a businessman and a man. This channel tells the stories powerful people never wanted remembered.